I'm Richard Kong, and I'm from Hong Kong. And I'm a professor in university, and I teach molecular biology and a new field of science called epigenetics. And basically, about some 4 years ago, I was not feeling too good, but I've heard of EFT, so I went to YouTube and just typed EFT to see what would come up, and I was just going to just follow the tape and do the tapping on myself. And what came up was Faster EFT. This sounds better. So I looked at a couple of Robert's videos, and I just followed with the tapping. And quite amazingly, I felt the shift quite immediately. And I really liked it, so I bought online quite a lot of the stuff that were available on Robert's website at that stage, and I also ordered the whole training set. So, but anyway, sort of move forward. In the last few years, I have been very active in doing scientific research in the field of epigenetics. And I was talking to Robert yesterday, asking him whether or not he has heard of transgenerational effects. And essentially, basically, what that is about is when a parent, whether you're male or female, and you are exposed to a form of stress, a certain type of imprint, chemical imprint, happens to your DNA. Now the DNA doesn't change, okay? The sequence doesn't change, but certain chemicals are added to the DNA to make it sort of chemically different. Now the effect of that is it shuts down a lot of genes, okay? And of course, for human behavior, it is what we call a multi-gene effect. So lots of genes are affected. And depending on what sets of genes are being modified, then different sets of genes are being shut off, okay? And that results in different behavioral patterns. We call that a behavioral change. The interesting thing is, although there is no change to the DNA sequence, but this particular behavioral change could be transmitted. Okay? This behavioral change as a result of exposure to stress, okay? In the parent, male or female, that could be transmitted down the line to at least 6 generations. And despite the fact that the future generations or the siblings or the offsprings over those number of generations have never been exposed to the stress that was first experienced by the parent. Okay, so and in fact, there's evidence from various fields of medical research, especially in neuroscience, that quite a lot of the neurological disorders, the mental disorders, autism, criminal mentality, probably has its basis in epigenetics. Okay. And so, I mean, there's an English saying where the sins of your fathers, okay, are sort of like visited upon sort of future generations. And epigenetics is essentially the scientific explanation for this. So it is very, very interesting in that particular aspect. And for me, somehow I believe, the interesting thing is for epigenetic effects, okay, they are reversible. And so I think the Faster EFT is a technique that helps us to essentially reverse a lot of these changes at whatever generations you may be in. So I mean, there's a lot of hope in that particular regard.
Very good. Good job. Thank you.
I have a question. Talking about this epigenetics, you said you have some stages, gene deactivation. Can you call this as a mutation, that the gene is mutation, or is it a different thing?
It's not a mutation.
No.
Sorry. The DNA, because you know that the basic components of DNA is just A, C, G, and T. Okay, so there's this particular sequence. So there is no change to the DNA. It's not changed at all. The sequence is not changed. The A, C, G, T is not being mutated. Okay, but the A, which is still there, or the C that is still there, they could be chemically modified. So like some kind of label has been sort of tagged on. So it's a tag, okay? And this tag gets transmitted to subsequent generations over at least 6 generations, yeah.
And you may even mention that they use mice to test this as well.
That's right.
Yes.
Generations.
Yes. Yes, in fact, there is this particular experiment that was carried out on mice where these newborn pups, we call them, okay, they are being sort of divided into different groups. Some they kept with surrogate mothers that are very loving, so based on the fact that they are good lickers, okay, so they lick their pups, which essentially similar to a loving mother that sort of cuddles and kisses the baby. And then another group of pups, they put it under the care of surrogate mothers that are unloving. They sort of just totally neglect their pups. And those pups grow up to be nervous, to be unsure of themselves. So a lot of behavioral disorders, so to speak. And the interesting thing is, those pups that are being neglected, okay, they will subsequently produce siblings in future generations that are also nervous, okay, and have behavioral disorders, despite the fact that, okay, they were sort of just kept under sort of normal sort of conditions. But of course, if those pups that were nervous were then put back to under the nursery, the nursing care of surrogate mothers that are loving, the disorders are reversed. Okay, so basically, it's not a mutation. Those tags are being removed when you shower the pups and the litters with love. Okay, so
Good job. Thank you. Thank you. You can address your children's own personal issues of fear, pain, and hurt, and it does affect their DNA, just like with you today. We have some really good visual imagery that we could show you of practitioners who've been tapping, who started 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and they've been tapping on themselves, and it's called FasterEFT Botox. Because you can look at individuals, you can look at Miula, when she first started, or Deirdre, or even Jeanette, and you can see them, they're looking younger, they're looking healthier. And even, I can't remember what your name, the girl from Romania, she looks better now, and she's been tapping. You can see that they're changing because they're changing their emotions. This is affecting not only their DNA, but their longevity in life and your health. Emotions affect everything. And if you can change the emotions, you change your DNA, period. But not only your DNA, but you also improve the relationships with you have your children, the relationship you have your partners, relationships with people you meet at the grocery store. It does affect everything in our life. And the most important thing is to take ownership with you today, impact your children. You can see it. I can see it in my children. I can see my behaviors, my pains, my hurts, my successes, my good stuff passed down. It's emotionally encoded and genetically encoded. And by the way, these things can change one day to the next with the right thinking, process, and emotional adjusting system. And that's what we have here with FasterEFT. Sound good? Thank you, Richard. Good job. I think it was very nice.